I'm really unhappy with this shot, but it'll do, as with a lot of things. What if I told you that you could spend more money than what it would cost to get a Helix LT, spend weeks and weeks and weeks making cables, laying out a board, doing all that kind of stuff, still end up with a product that's Helix based, has all the same sounds, all the same effects, all the same processing, but has less processing power, fewer blocks, all that kind of stuff, more limitations than the Helix LT. That's what I've just done, but I think I made the right call. My name's AJ. Let me show you my new board. First things first, this is the reason that I bought a HX Stomp and built a board rather than going an LT. This here is a carry-on sized suitcase, so it's approved by all the airlines here in Australia, at least that I could check, but they'll let you take it on the plane with you, and that was super important for me, and I wanted it to set up and pack up really quickly. So the board in here has everything on it. I don't have to mess with anything. I can pop the board down, power, signal in, signal out, and be done. Let me open it up, show you what's inside. So that's it in the case. It is perfect. It is so tight that it doesn't move. You just can't move it around. It's perfectly in there. And then on this side of the case, I've got 2 packing cubes. This one has all of the essentials that I use pretty much every time I play with this rig, and then this has all the spares, spare cables, batteries, tools. If I need to do a string change, everything's in there. I've got mic pouches, that's my in-ears, so it's got a couple of sets of in-ears, some batteries, my pack, and that kind of thing. This one's got the transmitter for the G70. This has my slides, because I play a lot of slide guitar these days. And that's kind of it. So this keeps everything organized. My load in now, I've got this thing and I've got the mono dual guitar gig bag. And that's everything. That's all I have to take for most gigs. If I'm playing bass, I take this thing in my bass case. If I'm playing acoustic, I take this thing in my acoustic case. There's no reason to be taking all this extra stuff. My load in used to be 3 trips with my amp, my pedal board, my road case of cables and stuff, and then guitars. It was pretty much 3 trips all the time. Now I can do it in 1, which means I can take it on a train, I can take it easily wherever I need to go. So, or at a plane if I'm flying. So yeah, that is why I've gone for this rig. This case itself is just fantastic. This board is tiny. Everything is good to go super quick. Let me show you the programming and how I've gotten this bit of extra flexibility out of that HX Stomp and the H9. Alright, here's the board. As you can see, there's a lot going on, but there's also not a lot going on. I'll walk you through signal path, then I'll sort of show you what's going on underneath, and we'll go from there. So, relay G70. First, this gives me my tuner split. It also gives me some boost if I need to match guitars, so I can balance. Just literally by switching that, you can change between presets and things like that. It's pretty cool. Highly recommend the G70. Tuner out goes to the Polytune. It's black because this board looked really weird until I painted these, because we had 2 white pedals on an entirely black board. So I've just spray painted the H9 case and the Polytune case. Out of the G70 goes into the HX Stomp. I'm only running mono in there. All of the switching between different guitars and all that kind of stuff happens in the HX Stomp rather than doing it in the G70. From the HX Stomp, the Eventide H9 is in the loop, just so that I can switch positioning and doing all that kind of stuff. It does mean that I use a block in the HX to be able to run the H9, but I'm kind of doing some cool stuff that for me, it makes it worth it to use that. So that's in there. Then it comes back to the HX Stomp. Out of the HX Stomps runs down underneath here, this white pedal underneath the G70. I'll give you a better look at that in a second. Is Pinstripe Pedals de-ISO. So that's taking me from my two inputs, it's giving me XLR outputs. It also has two outputs on the side that are back to unbalanced instrument outputs, meaning that I can run this into a guitar amp and go to a patch where this just runs as effects, flick out of here, and you can sum it to mono on a little toggle switch on the side. So that's super handy. And that just goes out, and that's all of these signal. So it's literally bang, 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 done. But everything after the G70 is stereo. So once it hits the HX, it becomes stereo. To do stereo in the loop, you've got to use a Y splitting TRS cable. So that's in there. Next, I guess I'll talk about power. So underneath here is a Seox DC7. That was probably the cheapest power supply that was going to do a decent job of giving me the power to run the HX Stomp. That's the big one. Everything else just uses one power supply, but this one had to double one of them. So that's in there. It's a good shape to sit under the HX Stomp. It sort of sits really nicely under there. It's all secure. I can probably lift the board up by lifting up the pedals. It'd be super annoying if they did fall, so I'm not gonna push my luck too much, but it's possible. Down here, I guess this is the most important part, is the Morningstar MC6. You may have seen tons of videos on these already. They're fantastic, highly recommended. 6-button MIDI controller. It's like 30 or 50 banks or something like that, which is handy. The big thing for me was you can program it with a laptop. Just plugging in makes it super easy. It's got this screen out here. You can change what your labels are and that sort of stuff. So I can actually name my banks. As I scroll up, it'll say stereo guitar, bass, acoustic, wet dry guitar, looper controls. I can do all that kind of stuff so that I know which banks, and I'm not trying to remember, or write a little list saying bank 1 is, bank 2 is, bank 3. And then all of your little labels on here will say, this switch is currently working as a boost. This switch is this sort of sound. This one's this one's your tap, that kind of stuff. So super, super handy. There was something else about it that I was about to say. Ooh, I'll get into the programming of this whole setup a bit later, but I can make one press do one thing, but a long press do something completely different. So I'm recalling different patches by long pressing or short pressing on each of these 4 buttons. In my main setups are patches. So it's actually giving me 8 patches just from those 4 buttons, which is super handy. It's got 2 expression inputs, so that's all these are. One typically goes to the H9, one goes to the HX Stomp. And then this one's just an external controller, so the H9 is on the Barn 3 aux9, giving me bank up and bank down, which with this setup I'm doing all of that sort of stuff with MIDI. But if I'm playing a sound and I go, oh, I just really want my swell, I don't want anything to change except my delay setting on here, I can just scroll to my swell, hit activate and be done. But it's only using 2 of the possible 3 controllers in the H9. So this down here gives me my 3rd one. This is repeat hold, so I can make a pad or something like that, hit repeat hold and then play. And then the other 2 buttons are the controls for the H9. So I've got, basically the way I'm going to have it set up is in every single patch I pretty much always have a fuzz. So that's my always fuzz button. and then I can scroll through snapshots with the other one. So I can set a gain, sort of lower gain, medium gain, higher gain for each of my sort of things. So I sort of go cleanest, low gain, mid gain, high gain, because these are the main two that I use. And so with the snapshot, I can just sort of give a little bit more and a little bit more each time I hit that without doing too much. This one I've got programmed most of the time as a volume boost, and I'll get into how I do that in a little bit too. But that's the board. I'm going to show you how it fits in the case, because that is a big part of why I built this board. Then I'll turn it on and I'll show you some of the programming stuff. Well, there's probably way better videos showing how to program the HX Stomp or the H9 or the MC6. So that's not what I'm here for. What I do want to go through is some of the cool different things that I've done, mostly around the MIDI control for the H9, that's meaning that it's worth using a block to get one effect, essentially. So, first and foremost, watch this ring on the H9. In the H9, in the MIDI settings, you can set essentially a MIDI command to give it whatever output level. So I've got this set at, I think it's about 85% all the time. And when I come here, you see boost on, I hit boost on, the whole ring goes up to 100%. So even when this isn't running any effect or anything like that, as long as the loop is activated, that button is giving me a little volume boost. So straight away, my loop is giving me a boost plus whatever effect the H9 is doing. Cool, excellent. That's one way that's really handy to get a little bit of extra flexibility out of sacrificing a loop. In this, at the moment, I'm in my bass rig, but if you go here, you see effects loop LR. I don't know if you can see that all that well, but yes, I'm using an effects loop in there to get to the H9. The volume pedal here, now you can use a volume pedal as a block, and it does work a little bit better. It goes to 0% completely, and it gives you the flexibility to say, turn that loop off and whatever. But what I've done is, knowing that the H9 is really the first thing that I want to be swelling into, I'm not really ever going to have delays in front of that H9. So my effects loop send level is directly attached to this expression pedal, and that's giving me my volume. So tuner is before it, amp is before it, all my delays, reverbs, all that kind of stuff is after it. And then, last but not least, I have a double delay set up, so it kind of sounds like reverb and delay. And my second expression pedal is changing the mix on the eventide, so I don't have to change patches to go from a light sort of always on delay to a bigger ambient, wall of sound kind of thing. It's fantastic. I really like this whole setup. The other thing that I will go over that I mentioned before is the different length presses of all of these buttons. So I've got clean, low, medium, high. Basically I've got a Dumble, a DC30, Dr. Z, and JCM 800. But each and every one of these, if I hold that down, it goes to a patch that has essentially the same amp, same effects. It's still got the fuzz available. It's got the loop. It's got a octave reverb that I can kill quite quickly and easily. On here, it's saved with that expression pedal at 0. And then on my H9, I've got my swell pad, which is feedback up, big delay sounds that I can volume swell into. and that is literally just by holding that down instead of a short press. Short press goes to Dumble main, dotted 8. Long press goes to Dumble ambient, swell. I'm still in the process of doing a bunch of programming for this thing, and I'm sure there are more tricks that I will come up with along the way, but just that alone, with the H9, the loop being the volume, the boost in the MIDI, and yeah, having sort of basically 2 different delay settings on each H9, so I'm not using a block to be like one different kind of reverb and delay and then a different one. I am able to use just the 6 blocks in the HX Stomp and get so many different sounds. So in the comments below, let me know, should I have just bought a Helix LT or did I make the right call? My name is AJ, this is my board. Thanks for watching.